Concussion, journal entry, August 6th, 2009. Today was a blustery day. No fluffy teddy bears blew past me during my errands. Although I wouldn't mind one to sit on right now. These amphitheater metal bleachers are anything but comfortable. The concussion I have doesn't make it any better. Not to mention the aches constant laughing causes by watching community performers in the play Nonsense. I shouldn't be surprised to find myself in such a state, and, of all people, sitting next to the lady in red. After our last interaction, I never would have thought to be sitting next to her fiddling with a little box in my pocket. However, after her random call one night this past March, I shouldn't be too surprised. She and I spent an hour on the phone that night. The following night, I felt it all right to call her for another lengthy conversation. For a few weeks, we traded phone calls back and forth. Each was getting longer and longer. Finally, on April 16th, after a few hours, she floored me by hesitantly asking, "Josiah, I was thinking we could take a step forward in our relationship." I knew exactly what she meant, but I wanted to hear her say it. I settled back in my cushy blue lazy boy and with a mischievous smile asked, "What do you mean?" Somehow I could feel her expression over the phone of, "You're really going to make me say it?" She finally blurted out, "Maybe we could go out sometime." "Sure. You want to go to that play you've been talking about?" I asked with a grin. "Ooh, yes, let's." Our first real date was almost 4 months ago on April 18th. The night started out a little rocky. It was embarrassing for me to ask her to call my mother for the directions I left behind. She didn't look all that comfortable either. Additionally, she expressed later how she felt underappreciated from my lack of physical touch. Despite my nervousness, the night seemed to be a success when I waved goodbye at her door. Now, after a few dozen dates, we get up to leave the outdoor theater to return her home. Only this time, I will make sure a gust of wind doesn't blow the car door into my head again. My head hurts. We are back at her place. I settle in on her couch while she is in the kitchen. I slip a small box into the cushion. "You want to dance?" I ask. She slumps into the opposite chair. "I'm tired," she yawns. Well, if I can't get her on her feet, I might as well join her. So I sit down on her lap. She groans, yet chuckles. "You sure you don't want to dance?" "Yes," she moans. "My legs have been crushed." Well, since you won't cooperate. On my drive home, I have never felt more whole in my life. As I reflect on tonight's date, the question I asked last December comes to mind. What did God save me from? Rather than focus on my suicidal past, this past year has been a time of prayer, asking God to send someone to pour into all the love He has given me. A prayer multiple doctors once said I wouldn't be able to formulate as a non-functional member of society. I can't help but grin. Among other things, God saved me from a life in which I couldn't have met the lady in red, whose groan and facial expression from earlier still makes me laugh. After I crushed her legs, I slipped off her lap, reached into the cushion, and pulled out the box I was fiddling with earlier. A glitter of ruby red flashed in the living room light as I asked, "Will you marry me?"